He went to a fair for one peaceful day, and walked into a fate he never chose. A queen's decision, a prince's hatred, one ring, drawn in blood. This is not a love story. It's the moment innocence was taken, and destiny turned cruel. Chapter 1. The Fair of Fate. The kingdom bloomed with color. Banners fluttered from stone buildings, bright ribbons woven through wooden stalls, and the air rang with laughter, music, and the scent of spiced sweets. Once a year, the grand fair transformed the capital into something softer, almost kind. Even the most guarded faces seemed to loosen beneath the warm sun. For Elian, the fair was a rare permission. He did not belong to crowds or noise. He lived on the edges of things, fields, quiet roads, corners where no one looked too closely. But today, dressed in simple clothes and worn sandals, he walked among the people with careful steps, his hands folded in front of him, as though afraid he might take up too much space. His hair, pale silver ash, caught the light no matter how much he tried to tie it back. His eyes, soft gray-blue, moved cautiously from stall to stall, lingering on little wonders he would never buy. Painted trinkets, warm bread, tiny glass charms shaped like stars. For a moment, Elian allowed himself to forget where he stood in the world. He stopped near a flower stand, lifting a small blossom to his nose. It smelled faintly sweet, and his lips curved into a shy, fleeting smile. That was when Queen Seraphina saw him. The queen had arrived without announcement, her presence cloaked in elegance rather than spectacle. Knights surrounded her at a respectful distance, their armor dark and polished, their eyes sharp. She walked slowly through the fair, observing everything. The people, the stalls, the way the crowd unconsciously parted for her. Then her gaze stopped. Elian stood bathed in sunlight, unaware, the flower held gently between his fingers. There was nothing bold about him, nothing demanding. Yet there was a quiet beauty that pulled the eye and refused to let go. Fragile, untouched, a softness that looked as though the world had already tried to break it. An omega, she realized instantly, but not one corrupted by ambition or vanity. Queen Seraphina's expression did not change, but something decisive settled behind her eyes. Him. She turned away as if nothing had happened, already certain. Elian would marry her son. Elian, still unaware, continued walking. A sudden shift rippled through the fair, voices lowering, laughter thinning into whispers. The air felt tighter, heavier, like a breath being held. Elian, someone murmured nearby. Don't look. Curiosity betrayed him. He turned. At the far end of the fair, surrounded by knights and nobles, stood Prince Athros. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black and silver that caught the light like steel. His dark hair was tied back neatly, his posture rigid, controlled. He did not smile. He did not speak. His gaze moved over the crowd as if measuring weaknesses. Cold. That was the first word that came to Elian's mind. When Athros' eyes briefly passed over him, Elian's breath caught painfully in his chest. It felt as though the prince could see straight through him, past the gentle exterior, past the obedience, straight into the fear he carried quietly every day. Elian looked away at once, heart pounding. Around him, whispers grew sharper. That's him, the queen's son. They say he has no mercy. He doesn't tolerate weakness. Omegas, especially. Elian's fingers tightened around the stem of the flower. They say his heart is made of stone. They say servants fear his footsteps. They say once he chooses something, it belongs to him forever. A chill crept up Elian's spine. He did not look back again. Across the fair, Prince Athros turned slightly, his gaze lingering where Elian had stood moments before. He frowned faintly, irritation flickering across his features, not at the boy, but at the strange, fleeting pull he could not explain. Queen Seraphina watched them both from a distance, one unaware, one unwilling, and one already bound by a decision made in silence. As bells rang and laughter rose once more, fate sealed itself quietly among the music and light. The fair continued. But for Elian, everything had already begun to change. Chapter 2. A command without truth. The palace was silent in the way only power could demand. Tall stone walls swallowed sound, and the long corridors echoed faintly beneath the boots of Queen Seraphina's knights as they escorted her through the grand door. Servants bowed deeply, pressing themselves against the walls, their eyes lowered in practiced obedience. The queen moved with measured grace, her expression unreadable. She had already decided. At the end of the corridor, heavy doors opened into the council chamber, where Prince Athros stood near the tall windows, his back straight, hands clasped behind him. He was still dressed in dark training clothes, his sword resting against the wall nearby. Sunlight cut across his sharp profile, doing nothing to soften it. "Mother," Athros said, turning at her approach. His tone was respectful but distant. Queen Seraphina studied her son carefully. He had grown exactly as she had shaped him, disciplined, feared, unyielding. A future king who did not bend. Yet beneath that iron exterior she saw what he could not allow himself to feel. She gestured for the servants to leave. When the doors closed, her voice filled the chamber. "There is a boy," she said calmly. "His name is Elian." Athros frowned faintly. "A boy?" "Yes." She approached him slowly. "I want you to bring him to the palace." Athros' eyes sharpened. "For what purpose?" "That does not concern you." He stiffened, displeasure flickering across his face. "You summon villagers without reason now." Queen Seraphina met his gaze without hesitation. "I summon whoever I wish." Silence stretched between them. Athros exhaled through his nose, restraining his irritation. "Where is he?" "A small village near the eastern fields," she replied. "He works the land. You will go yourself." Athros' jaw tightened. "You have nights for this." "I want you to see him." That gave him pause. Athros searched her expression for meaning, but found none. His mother had always been like this, strategic, secretive, revealing only what benefited her. Finally he bowed his head slightly. "As you command." Queen Seraphina turned away, her cloak trailing behind her as she walked toward the door. "One more thing," she added without looking back. "Be polite." The word almost made Athros laugh. When she was gone, Athros stood alone, staring out the window at the distant horizon. A boy named Elian. A simple summons, nothing more. Yet something about the queen's tone unsettled him, like a blade hidden beneath silk. Far away, in a quiet village surrounded by open fields, Elian knelt in the dirt, his hands rough with work, the sun warm on his back. He did not know his name had been spoken in the palace. He did not know a command had already been given. And he certainly did not know that the cold prince he had seen only once was already on his way to claim him. Fate moved silently, and truth for now remained hidden. Chapter 2. A command without truth. The palace was silent in the way only power could demand. Tall stone walls swallowed sound, and the long corridors echoed faintly beneath the boots of Queen Seraphina's knights as they escorted her through the grand doors. Servants bowed deeply, pressing themselves against the walls, their eyes lowered in practiced obedience. The queen moved with measured grace, her expression unreadable. She had already decided. At the end of the corridor, heavy doors opened into the council chamber, where Prince Athros stood near the tall windows, his back straight, hands clasped behind him. He was still dressed in dark training clothes, his sword resting against the wall nearby. Sunlight cut across his sharp profile, doing nothing to soften it. "Mother," Athros said, turning at her approach. His tone was respectful, but distant. Queen Seraphina studied her son carefully. He had grown exactly as she had shaped him, disciplined, feared, unyielding. A future king who did not bend. Yet beneath that iron exterior, she saw what he could not allow himself to feel. She gestured for the servants to leave. When the doors closed, her voice filled the chamber. "There is a boy," she said calmly. "His name is Elian." Athros frowned faintly. "A boy?" "Yes." She approached him slowly. "I want you to bring him to the palace." Athros' eyes sharpened. "For what purpose?" "That does not concern you." He stiffened, displeasure flickering across his face. "You summon villagers without reason now?" Queen Seraphina met his gaze without hesitation. "I summon whoever I wish." Silence stretched between them. Athros exhaled through his nose, restraining his irritation. "Where is he?" "A small village near the eastern fields," she replied. "He works the land. You will go yourself." Athros' jaw tightened. "You have nights for this. I want you to see him." That gave him pause. Athros searched her expression for meaning, but found none. His mother had always been like this. Strategic, secretive, revealing only what benefited her. Finally, he bowed his head slightly. "As you command." Queen Seraphina turned away, her cloak trailing behind her as she walked toward the door. "One more thing," she added without looking back. "Be polite." The word almost made Athros laugh. When she was gone, Athros stood alone, staring out the window at the distant horizon. A boy named Elian. A simple summons. Nothing more. Yet something about the queen's tone unsettled him, like a blade hidden beneath silk. Far away, in a quiet village surrounded by open fields, Elian knelt in the dirt, his hands rough with work, the sun warm on his back. He did not know his name had been spoken in the palace. He did not know a command had already been given. And he certainly did not know that the cold prince he had seen only once was already on his way to claim him. Fate moved silently, and truth, for now, remained hidden. Chapter 3. Meeting in the Fields. The village lay quiet beneath the wide sky, fields stretching endlessly in shades of gold and green. Elian worked among them, barefoot in the soil, his sleeves rolled past his elbows. The sun had warmed the earth, and dust clung to his clothes and skin. His hair was tied loosely at his neck, strands falling free as he bent to gather harvested grain. Each movement was practiced, obedient, silent. He did not hear the hooves at first. It was the sudden stillness that warned him. Birdsong faded. The wind shifted. The air felt heavy, pressured, as if something powerful had entered it. Elian straightened slowly. At the edge of the field stood Prince Athros. Black armor gleamed beneath the sun, dark and immaculate, untouched by dust or labor. His cloak stirred faintly behind him, and beside him waited several royal knights, their presence rigid and imposing. The contrast was cruel, steel and authority against dirt and sweat. Elian's breath caught. This was not the distant, terrifying figure from the fair. This was real, close, watching him. Athros' gaze moved over Elian without apology. From his dirty hands to his worn clothes, to the way his posture instinctively lowered the moment he realized who stood before him. An Omega. So this was the boy. Athros felt an unexpected flicker of irritation, not at Elian, but at the way the boy shrank under his stare, as if already expecting punishment. "Elian," Athros said. Hearing his own name spoken in that cold, controlled voice made Elian's heart stumble. He dropped immediately to one knee, bowing his head low. "My prince?" Elian whispered. The knights exchanged brief glances. None of them missed the way Elian's hands trembled slightly against the soil. Athros dismounted and stepped forward. His boots sank only slightly into the field, never dirty enough to truly belong there. "You work here," Athros said flatly. "Yes, my prince." Athros circled him once, slow and deliberate, like a predator inspecting something it had already decided to take. Elian kept his eyes down, face burning with shame. He could feel the prince's attention like weight pressing against his back. "You were summoned," Athros continued. "You will come with me to the palace." Elian's head lifted sharply. "The palace?" "There is no need for questions." His voice left no space for refusal. Elian swallowed hard. May I change my clothes, my prince?" Athros stopped. He looked at Elian again, truly looked. Dust-streaked cheeks, calloused hand, clothes stained from honest labor. There was nothing polished about him. "No," Athros said. "You will come as you are." The words struck deeper than Elian expected. His fingers curled into his sleeves as humiliation crept up his throat. "As you wish," he whispered. The knights moved swiftly, arranging themselves. A carriage was brought forward, large, ornate, far too grand for someone like Elian. Athros gestured toward it without another word. Elian hesitated for only a moment before obeying. As he climbed into the carriage, he felt every gaze on him. The curiosity of the knights, the sharp scrutiny of the prince. He folded himself into the corner, hands clasped tightly in his lap, trying to make himself smaller. Athros mounted his horse and rode alongside the carriage. Through the small window, Elian could feel his presence without seeing him. Every beat of the horse's hooves echoed in his chest. The closer they drew to the capital, the heavier his fear became. He remembered the rumors. Cruel, heartless, merciless. Elian lowered his head, eyes burning. He did not know why he had been summoned. He did not know what awaited him at the palace. He only knew that under Prince Athros' cold, unyielding gaze, something precious and fragile inside him was already beginning to break. And the road ahead offered no escape. Chapter 4. Shame in the Palace. The palace gates loomed like a judgment. Tall iron doors opened slowly, their groan echoing through the vast courtyard, as Prince Athros rode in, the carriage following behind him. Stone towers rose on every side, cold and unforgiving, their shadows stretching across the ground like long fingers ready to seize anything that entered. Inside the carriage, Elian stiffened. He had never seen anything so large, so severe. The palace did not welcome, it watched. When the carriage stopped, a servant opened the door and bowed deeply. Elian hesitated before stepping down, his worn sandals touching polished stone that reflected his image back at him. Dust clung to his clothes. Soil stained his sleeve. He looked painfully out of place. Prince Athros dismounted nearby. The moment his boots hit the ground, Elian felt it again, that heavy, crushing presence. Athros turned toward him, his gaze sharp and displeased. His nose wrinkled faintly as he stepped closer. "You smell," Athros said flatly. The words struck harder than a slap. Elian froze. His voice faltered. "I'm sorry, my prince. I was working in the fields." "Enough," Athros cut in, irritation flickering in his eyes. "You will bathe, immediately." Heat rushed to Elian's face, shame burning down his neck and chest. He bowed deeply, nearly folding in on himself. Yes, my prince." Servants were summoned at once. They avoided Elian's eyes as they led him through endless corridors, their whispers brushing his ears like needles. Every step made his guilt heavier. He scrubbed his hands against his sleeves uselessly, wishing he could disappear into the stone walls. The bath chamber was vast, filled with steam and the scent of herbs. Elian was stripped of his dirty clothes and left alone with the water. He sank into the bath slowly, his body trembling as warmth closed around him. He scrubbed his skin again and again until it stung as if he could wash away more than just dirt. I embarrassed him? Elian thought miserably. I don't belong here." When he finished, servants dressed him in unfamiliar clothes, soft, pale fabric that felt too fine for his skin. His wet hair was combed and tied back neatly. He barely recognized the reflection staring back at him. Before he could gather his thoughts, a servant bowed and spoke softly. "You are to be taken to court." Elian's heart dropped. The court chamber was immense. Nobles lined the sides, dressed in rich colors and jewels, their eyes immediately locking onto him with curiosity and judgment. Whispers rippled through the room as Elian was guided forward, each step making him feel smaller. At the far end, seated upon the throne, was Queen Seraphina. Beside her stood Prince Athros. Elian lowered his head at once, kneeling as protocol demanded. His pulse thundered in his ears. He did not dare look up. The queen rose. Her voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. Smooth, commanding, absolute. "Today," she announced, "I have made a decision for the future of this kingdom." Athros stiffened beside her. Elian felt it, sensed the shift in the air. Queen Seraphina turned her gaze toward Elian. "This Omega," she said, "a lion of the eastern fields." Elian's breath caught. "Will become the lawful spouse of Prince Athros." The words echoed. Silence crashed down like thunder. Elian's mind went blank. Marry Prince Athros? His fingers curled into the stone floor beneath him, his chest tightening so sharply it hurt to breathe. He lifted his head in disbelief, eyes wide, turning instinctively toward Athros. Prince Athros looked just as shocked. "What?" Athros snapped, turning sharply to his mother. "You did not." "It is decided," Queen Seraphina said calmly, cutting him off. "The wedding will proceed." Elian's lips parted, but no sound came out. No one asked him. No one looked at him. No one cared. The queen's gaze hardened slightly. This union will strengthen the royal bloodline. There will be no objections. Athros' hands clenched at his sides, anger radiating off him in waves. He looked at Elian, not with softness, not with curiosity, but with cold, burning resentment. As if Elian had chosen this. As if Elian were the cause. Elian lowered his head again, shoulders shaking faintly. In one moment, without warning, his life had been taken from him. And standing beside the throne, Prince Athros looked at him like a mistake he had been forced to claim. The palace doors closed behind them with a heavy finality. There was no turning back now. Chapter 5. A ring like a womb. The court did not erupt. It waited. Silence pressed down on the chamber so heavily that Elian felt it in his bones. He remained kneeling, his hands trembling against the cold stone floor, his mind struggling to catch up with words that still echoed cruelly in his ears. Marriage. Prince Athros. He felt too small to breathe. Prince Athros was the first to move. No. The word rang sharp and clear, cutting through the silence like steel. Queen Seraphina turned her head slowly toward her son. "What did you say?" "I said no," Athros repeated, his voice colder now, restrained fury coiling beneath it. "I will not marry him." Gasps rippled faintly among the nobles. Elian's heart lurched painfully. For a brief, foolish moment, hope sparked in his chest, small and desperate. Athros stepped forward, his eyes burning. "This is absurd. You summon a field Omega and bind him to me without warning? Without consent?" He gestured sharply toward Elian without looking at him. "I refuse." Queen Seraphina descended one step from the throne. "You forget yourself," she said quietly. Athros clenched his jaw. "I am your son, your heir, and I am your queen." Her gaze hardened, sharp as glass. "If you refuse this marriage, you will refuse the throne as well." The word struck harder than any blade. Athros froze. The court went deathly still. "You will be stripped of your title," Queen Seraphina continued evenly. "Your claim will be removed. Another will sit where you stand now. Athros' hands curled into fists at his sides. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. Not fear, but something close to it. He had trained his entire life for the crown, bled for it, broken himself for it. Alien watched silently, dread creeping through his veins. No one looked at him. No one spoke to him. He was not part of this argument, only the object at its center. Slowly, painfully, Athros exhaled. "Fine," he said at last, the word bitter on his tongue. "I will marry him." The relief in the court was immediate. Elian felt nothing but terror. Queen Serafina nodded once satisfied. "Good." She turned to the servants. "Bring the ring." Elian's head snapped up. "Ring?" A servant approached, carrying a velvet cushion. Resting upon it was a ring of polished silver and dark gemstone, heavy, ornate, unmistakably royal. Elian's hands began to shake uncontrollably. The queen did not ask him to stand, did not ask his name again, did not ask his permission. She simply gestured. "Proceed." Prince Athros stepped toward Elian. Up close, his presence was overwhelming. Anger rolled off him in waves, sharp and suffocating. His eyes locked onto Elian's face, not with desire, not with curiosity, but with cold resentment, as if Elian had stolen something from him. "Stand," Athros commanded. Elian obeyed instantly, rising on unsteady leg. He kept his gaze lowered, his throat tight, his heart hammering so hard it felt like it might tear free. Athros took Elian's hand. His grip was too tight. Elian flinched but did not pull away. Athros slid the ring onto Elian's finger roughly, forcing it past the knuckle without care. Pain shot through Elian's hand, sharp and sudden. He gasped softly as the ring scraped his skin, the metal biting into flesh. Athros did not stop. He shoved the ring into place. Elian's fingers trembled violently. His eyes burned, but he swallowed everything down, refusing to cry. Not here, not in front of all of them. A thin line of red welled beneath the ring. Someone noticed. No one spoke. Athros released Elian's hand as if disgusted, turning away immediately. "Is that sufficient?" he asked coldly. Queen Serafina's lips curved faintly. "It will do." Elian stared at his hand, at the ring, at the blood. This was not a promise, not a bond, not love. It was a claim. And as Athros walked away from him without a backward glance, Elian understood something with devastating clarity. He had not been chosen. He had been taken. Chapter 6. Promises laced with fear. The announcement spread through the kingdom like wildfire. By sunset, bells rang from every tower, their echoes rolling across the streets and fields alight. Messengers rode through villages, their voices loud and unwavering. "The wedding of Prince Athros will take place tomorrow." Tomorrow. The word felt unreal. Inside the palace, everything changed at once. Servants rushed through corridors with bolts of silk and trays of jewels. Florists filled halls with white and silver blooms. Lanterns were hung, banners raised, and musicians summoned. The palace transformed into a place of celebration, beautiful, bright, and mercilessly fast. Elian watched it all in silence. He was seated in a small chamber prepared for him, hands folded tightly in his lap. His eyes followed the movement of servants as they came and went, measuring his body, whispering to one another, laying out clothes he had never touched before. His chest felt tight. His throat burned. He tried to hold himself together, but Elian had never been good at that. The moment the door finally closed and he was left alone, the tears came. They spilled over without warning, hot and uncontrollable. Elian pressed his hands to his mouth, but the sound still escaped, small, broken sobs that shook his shoulders. He curled in on himself, knees drawn to his chest, tears soaking into the unfamiliar fabric beneath him. Tomorrow he would be married to a man who hated him. "I didn't do anything wrong," Elian whispered shakily, his voice breaking. I didn't ask for this." But no one answered. A soft knock came at the door. Elian startled, wiping his face hurriedly with his sleeve, but the tears refused to stop. The door opened anyway, and Queen Seraphina entered, her presence calm and commanding as ever. She took one look at Elian and paused. "Ah, tears. Of course." Elian scrambled to stand, bowing deeply, but his knees shook and his eyes blurred again. Tears slipped down his cheeks, no matter how hard he tried to stop them. "Your Majesty," he stammered, voice thick. Queen Seraphina approached slowly. "Lift your head." Elian obeyed. The moment he met her gaze, another sob slipped free. He turned his face away in embarrassment, pressing his sleeve to his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I cry easily." "I know," the queen said calmly. She gestured for him to sit and took the chair across from him. Her eyes were sharp, observant, missing nothing. "You are frightened," she stated. Elian nodded immediately, tears spilling faster now that someone had named the feeling. "Prince Athros, he hates me. I don't understand why this is happening. I'm scared." Queen Seraphina regarded him for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice smooth and reassuring, yet layered with something colder beneath. "Do not worry," she said. "Athros will keep you happy." Elian's fingers tightened in his lap. He wanted to believe her, desperately. "You will live in luxury," the queen continued. "You will never lack food, shelter, or protection. You will carry royal children and be honored as such." Elian's breathing slowly steadied. Then she added, almost casually, "But the beginning will be difficult." Elian stiffened. "Suffering," Queen Seraphina said softly, "is unavoidable." The word landed like a blade. Elian's lips trembled. Tears welled again instantly, sliding down his cheeks before he could stop them. I'll try," he whispered. "I'll obey. I'll do everything right. Please, I don't want to be a burden." Queen Seraphina stood. She placed 2 fingers beneath Elian's chin, lifting his face just enough to make him look up. His eyes were red and wet, lashes clumped with tears. He looked fragile, too gentle for the fate pressed upon him. "You are not a burden," the queen said. "You are necessary." She released him and turned toward the door. "Rest," she commanded. "Tomorrow you will become Prince Athros' spouse." The door closed behind her. Elian sat there long after, tears still falling quietly, soaking into his sleeves as the palace glittered around him in celebration. Tomorrow he would be bound forever. And no matter how easily he cried, no one would come to save him. Chapter 7. Marriage of Hatred. The palace awoke before the sun. Bells rang softly through the corridors, and servants moved with hushed urgency, carrying silk, jewels, and flowers, meant to celebrate a union that felt more like a sentence. Candles were lit, curtains drawn back, and the air filled with the scent of incense and fresh roses. In a secluded chamber, Elian sat perfectly still. Servants surrounded him, dressing him layer by layer in fabric too heavy, too fine. Pale silk hugged his trembling frame, embroidered with silver thread that caught the light. Jewels were fastened around his neck, his wrists, his ears, cold against his skin, weighing him down until he felt like a decorated offering rather than a person. "Hold still," a servant murmured gently. Elian nodded, though his hands shook in his lap. His eyes burned. Tears clung stubbornly to his lashes, threatening to fall at any moment. He swallowed hard, forcing them back, but one slipped free anyway, tracing a quiet path down his cheek. Today he would be married. Not because he was loved, not because he was chosen, but because he was ordered. When the servants finished, they stepped back in silent admiration. Elian barely recognized himself in the mirror. He looked beautiful, fragile, soft, painfully out of place. A knock sounded. "Come," a servant said. Elian rose on unsteady legs and followed them through the corridor toward the wedding hall. Music drifted faintly through the stone walls. The doors ahead stood tall and imposing, carved with symbols of royal power. Before they could open, a hand seized Elian's wrist. "Wait." The voice was sharp, cold, gloom. Elian flinched and turned. Prince Athros stood behind him, dressed in black and silver, his expression dark with barely restrained fury. He looked every bit the powerful ruler the kingdom feared, and at this moment all of that fury was directed at Elian. "Leave us," Athros ordered. The servants bowed and withdrew at once. The corridor fell silent. Athros stepped closer, his presence suffocating. His eyes dragged slowly over Elian's adorned form, from the jewels to the silk, his lip curling faintly in disgust. "So this is what my mother bought you with," Athros said bitterly. "Gold, jewels, fine clothes." Elian's breath caught. "And no, my prince, How much?" Athros interrupted harshly. "How much did she promise you to crawl into my bed?" Elian shook his head quickly, panic rising. Tears spilled instantly, blurring his vision. "I didn't ask for any of this," he said softly, voice breaking. "I swear, I didn't want—" Athros scoffed. "Don't lie." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small pouch, tossing it at Elian's feet. Coins spilled across the stone floor with a sharp clatter. "I'll give you more," Athros said coldly. "Gold, land, servants, more than she ever promised you." Elian stared at the coins, horrified. I can't," he whispered, tears falling freely now. "I can't refuse her. She told me. She told me if I ran, if I disobeyed, she would." His voice broke completely. Athros' eyes darkened. "So you admit it," he said quietly. "You're afraid of her." Elian nodded helplessly, sobbing softly. "I don't have a choice." That was when Athros snapped. In one swift motion, he grabbed Elian by the waist and slammed him back against the stone wall. Elian gasped sharply, hands flying up instinctively to grip Athros' sleeves. "My prince!" Athros leaned down, his grip iron tight, his breath hot against Elian's ear. "Listen to me carefully," he whispered, voice low and venomous. "If this marriage happens, your life will not be easy." Elian's entire body trembled. "I will make you regret ever stepping into this palace," Athros continued. "You will obey me, you will serve me. And if you think these jewels mean you own something here—" His fingers dug painfully into Elian's side. "You are nothing more than property." Elian sobbed openly now, tears soaking into Athros' sleeve. "Please, please, don't hurt me." Athros froze for half a second. Then he released Elian abruptly, stepping back as if disgusted with himself or with Elian. "Fix yourself," Athros said coldly. "You embarrass me." Before Elian could respond, the doors to the wedding hall opened. Music swelled. The moment swallowed them both. Elian was guided forward, his tears hastily wiped away by trembling fingers. His legs felt weak as he walked down the aisle, eyes lowered, heart pounding painfully in his chest. Athros stood opposite him, rigid and distant. The vows were spoken. Elian barely heard them. Athros responded with a clipped voice, his gaze never softening. When the final words were spoken, when the binding was declared complete, Elian felt something inside him collapse entirely. Applause echoed through the hall. Flowers fell. Smiles surrounded them. But beneath the silk, the jewels, the music, two hearts were bound together in fear, resentment, and hatred. And as Elian stood beside his new husband, crying quietly beneath his veil, Prince Athros did not look at him once. The marriage was complete, and the suffering was only beginning. Chapter 8. The first night of cruelty. The celebrations faded slowly into silence. Music drifted away. Laughter thinned. Footsteps echoed less and less through the corridors as the palace settled into night. What remained was an oppressive quiet, thick with expectation. Elian stood in the marital chamber like a stranger. Servants surrounded him once more, their movements efficient and distant. They removed the heavy ceremonial layers from his body, replacing them with thin night clothes of pale silk. His hair was loosened and brushed, falling softly down his back. "Sit," one of them said gently. Elian obeyed. They guided him onto the edge of the large bed, a bed far too grand, far too wide. White sheets lay smooth and untouched, the canopy above casting shadows that felt too deep, too enclosing. When the servants finished, they bowed and quietly left the room. The door closed. The sound echoed in Elian's chest like a final lock. He sat there, hands clenched in the fabric of his clothes, shoulders trembling. The silence pressed against his ears until it became unbearable. His breathing grew shallow, uneven. Tears came quickly. Elian curled inward, drawing his knees up as much as the bed allowed, his fingers digging into the sheets. He pressed his sleeve to his mouth to keep from making noise, but soft sobs still slipped through. "Please, let this end," he begged silently. "Please don't let him hate me this much." Time passed slowly, too slowly. Every sound made his heart jump. The crackle of a torch, a distant footstep, the shift of air beneath the door. Then, when the door opened, Elian froze. Heavy footsteps crossed the room with no hesitation, no pause. He could feel the presence before he saw it, cold, sharp, suffocating. Prince Athros stood. He did not speak at first. He stood near the bed, his shadow falling over Elian's trembling form. The smell of wine and metal clung faintly to him. Elian looked up instinctively, and that was his mistake. Athros lunged forward. A hand clamped around Elian's throat, fingers digging in just enough to steal his breath. Elian gasped sharply, hands flying up in panic as Athros shoved him back onto the bed. "My prince!" Elian choked. Athros leaned over him, eyes dark and burning with contempt. "Do not look at me like that," Athros snarled. "Like you belong here." Tears spilled freely as Elian struggled weakly beneath him, fear flooding every inch of his body. "You think this makes you important?" Athros continued coldly. "You think a ring gives you value?" He tightened his grip briefly, just enough to make Elian sob. "You are nothing," Athros said. "Nothing more than a toy forced into my hands." Elian shook his head frantically, tears soaking the pillow beneath him. "I didn't want this. Please, please believe me." Athros laughed. A low, humorless sound. "Believe you?" His eyes were merciless. "From tonight onward I will make your life hell. Every breath you take in this palace will remind you of your place." With a violent shove, Athros released him. Elian cried out softly as he was pushed off the bed, his body hitting the cold stone floor hard. Pain shot through his side and knees. He curled instinctively, gasping, tears spilling uncontrollably. Athros stood over him, looking down with icy disdain. "You will not sleep here," he said. "This bed is not for you." Elian looked up at him through blurred vision, his voice barely a whisper. "Where?" "The library," Athros replied. "On the floor." He turned away as if Elian were already forgotten. "Do not return here unless summoned," Athros added coldly. "And if you disobey me," he glanced back once, eyes sharp and dangerous, "you will regret it." The door opened again. Athros left. The door closed. Elian was alone. He lay on the cold stone floor, shaking violently, tears streaming down his face without restraint. His throat burned. His chest ached with each sob. He curled tighter, arms wrapped around himself as if that alone could keep him from shattering completely. He was married, and already he had been cast aside. When servants later came to escort him to the library, Elian did not resist. He followed them silently, barefoot, tears still falling, his fragile heart breaking with every step down the cold, endless corridor. The palace slept, but in the vast dark library, Elian curled on the floor and cried himself into restless, broken sleep, knowing with devastating certainty this marriage had only just begun. Chapter 9. Marks and Mockery. Morning light crept through the tall windows of the library, pale and unforgiving. Elian woke on the cold stone floor, his body stiff and aching. His eyes burned from crying through the night, lashes still damp, cheeks tight and sore. For a moment he did not remember where he was. Then the chill beneath him reminded him of everything. He pushed himself up slowly, wincing as pain shot through his side. His throat felt raw. When he swallowed it stung. Footsteps approached. Elian froze, instinctively lowering his head. Two servants entered the library quietly. One of them stopped short, eyes widening as they took in Elian's appearance. Rumpled nightclothes, red-rimmed eyes, trembling hands. Then their gaze dropped to his neck. Dark marks bloomed just beneath his collar. The servant inhaled sharply. "Oh," she murmured quickly, looking away. Elian's hand flew up to his throat too late. He felt it then, the tenderness, the soreness. His breath hitched. "It's not," he started, panic flooding him. "It's not what you think." But the servants had already exchanged knowing glances. Word spread quickly in the palace. By the time Elian was summoned to court, whispers followed him like shadows. He walked with his head bowed, sleeves pulled up uselessly toward his neck, tears threatening to fall with every step. His heart pounded painfully in his chest as the tall doors opened and he was led inside. The court was full. Nobles lined the chamber, their eyes snapping toward him immediately. Smiles curved on painted lips. Murmurs rippled through the room. "So soon? How eager. Looks like the prince didn't waste time." Elian's knees nearly buckled. He dropped to a kneel automatically, his hands shaking against the floor. The marks on his neck were still visible, dark, unmistakable. Laughter followed. Elian's vision blurred as tears filled his eyes. He pressed his lips together desperately, trying not to sob, trying not to make it worse. At the front of the chamber stood Prince Athros. He did not look at Elian. He did not speak. He did nothing. Each mocking word felt sharper because of that silence. When the court finally dispersed, Elian was dismissed with a wave of the queen's hand. He rose slowly, legs weak, humiliation burning through every vein. Outside the chamber, a hand caught his arm roughly. "Come." Athros' voice was cold. Elian flinched and followed immediately, tears slipping down his cheeks again. He struggled to wipe them away, embarrassed by how easily they fell. Inside a side corridor, Athros released him abruptly. "You humiliated me," Athros said flatly. Elian's head snapped up in shock. "Am I prince? I didn't do anything." "Enough," Athros cut in sharply. His eyes burned with contempt. "You let them see you like that. You let them think." Elian shook his head desperately. "Please believe me. You hurt me last night. I slept in the library like you said." Athros' jaw tightened. "Do not speak," he snapped. "I don't care what lies you tell yourself." Elian's breath broke into a quiet sob. "From now on," Athros continued, "you will learn obedience." The punishments began immediately. Elian was sent to the servants' quarters and ordered to wash piles of clothing by hand, royal garments soaked in freezing water. His fingers turned numb and red as he scrubbed endlessly, teeth chattering as cold seeped into his bones. When he finished, Athros summoned him again. In a spotless hall, Athros deliberately swept a stack of papers onto the floor, ink spilling, dust scattering. "Clean it," he ordered. Elian dropped to his knees at once, hands shaking as he gathered the mess, tears falling silently onto the stone. Athros watched him with unreadable eyes. By evening, Elian could barely stand. That was when Athros called him once more. A velvet box was placed in Elian's trembling hands. "Shoes," Athros said. Elian opened it slowly, revealing glittering jewelry. Rings, bracelets, necklaces far more beautiful than anything he had ever seen. His chest tightened. I don't need shoes," Athros repeated coldly. With shaking fingers, Elian picked a simple bracelet, thinking it might displease Athros the least. Athros took it from him without a word. Then he turned and handed it to a servant standing nearby. "For you," Athros said. The servant froze in shock. Elian's breath hitched sharply. His eyes filled instantly, tears spilling down his face without restraint. He bowed his head, shoulders trembling. "Yes, my prince," he whispered brokenly. Athros dismissed him without another glance. That night, Elian returned to the library, his body aching, his hands raw, his heart in pieces. He curled up on the floor once more, tears soaking into the cold stone as quiet sobs shook his fragile frame. The marks on his neck faded slowly. The shame did not, and somewhere deep inside, Elian began to understand. This palace was not his home, and Prince Athros was not his protector. He was his punishment. Chapter 10. Jealousy turns violent. The garden was the only place that did not hurt to breathe. Sunlight filtered softly through arching trees, dappling the stone paths with warmth. A fountain murmured nearby, its sound gentle enough to quiet the palace's endless whispers. Elian sat on a low bench near the roses, hands folded in his lap, his posture small and careful. He had been sent there to rest. Rest, Elian had learned, did not mean comfort. A servant had braided his hair loosely that morning, tucking a small white flower just behind his ear. Elian had not asked for it, but he had been too tired to refuse. The flower was light, barely there, yet it felt like something fragile he was allowed to keep. He stared at the ground, eyes distant, lashes still heavy from crying earlier. The marks on his neck had faded, but the memory of them had not. Footsteps approached softly. "Your Highness," a servant murmured, stopping a respectful distance away. Elian startled slightly. "Yes." The servant hesitated, then reached out carefully. "Forgive me, but the flower, it is not appropriate." Before Elian could respond, the servant gently removed it from his hair. Elian flinched instinctively. I'm sorry," he said quickly, panic rushing in as his eyes filled. "I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to." The servant looked startled. No, it's all right." But it was too late. Across the garden path, Prince Athros had stopped. He had not intended to come here. He had not even known Elian would be present. Yet the sight struck him hard and without warning. Elian sitting quietly, head bowed, while another man stood close enough to touch him. Athros' gaze darkened. The servant's hand near Elian's hair burned itself into Athros' vision. Something ugly twisted in his chest. Too close. Elian looked small, vulnerable, his eyes wet, his lips trembling, and someone else was touching him. Athros turned away abruptly, jaw clenched so tightly it ached. He said nothing. He did not confront them, but the image followed him. Night fell heavy and suffocating. Elian sat alone in the library again, curled on the floor near the shelves. His throat felt dry, painfully so. He had cried earlier, quietly, as always, and forgotten to drink water. His chest ached. A servant passed by the doorway. "Help," Elian whispered. pushing himself up weakly. "Say, can I have some water, please?" The servant paused, concern flickering across his face. "Of course, Your Highness." Moments later, the servant returned with a cup. Elian accepted it with shaking hands. "Thank you," he murmured softly, lifting it to his lips. That was when the door behind them opened. Prince Athros stood there. His gaze snapped immediately to the servant standing close to Elian, to the way Elian held the cup with both hands, to the way his lashes were still damp, his cheeks flushed. Athros saw red. "What is this?" he snarled. The servant froze. "My prince, I was only—" Athros crossed the room in 3 strides. Before Elian could even react, Athros struck the servant hard across the face. The sound echoed violently through the library. Elian screamed, "No, please don't." The servant collapsed to the floor, stunned. Athros grabbed Elian's arm roughly, fingers digging into his skin. "My prince, please." Elian sobbed, dropping the cup. Water spilled across the floor as he was dragged forward, barefoot and stumbling. Athros hauled him out of the library, fury radiating from him like heat. Elian cried openly now, tears streaming down his face as he struggled to keep up. "I was just drinking water," Elian pleaded brokenly. "I didn't do anything, I swear." Athros shoved him into a chamber and slammed the door shut behind them. "You think I'm blind?" Athros snapped. "First the garden, now this." Elian shook his head frantically, sobbing. "I don't understand. Please, I wasn't trying to." Athros grabbed Elian by the shoulders, forcing him back against the door. "Do not look at servants like that," Athros growled. "Do not speak to them unless permitted." I wasn't." Elian choked. "You belong here," Athros continued harshly. "And from today onward you will stay here." Elian's chest tightened in fear. "Here." "This room," Athros said coldly. "You will not leave unless I allow it." Tears streamed freely down Elian's face. "Please, I get scared alone." Athros hesitated, only for a breath. Then his expression hardened. "You will not see any servants without my presence," he said. "Not one. If you need something, you will wait." Elian slid down the door slowly, collapsing to the floor as sobs racked his small body. "Yes, my prince," he whispered brokenly. Athros turned away, already regretting nothing. The door locked. Elian curled into himself on the cold floor, shaking violently as he cried, soft, helpless sobs filling the empty room. He did not understand jealousy. He did not understand possession. He only knew that every time Prince Athros looked at him, something dangerous awakened, and Elian was trapped inside it. Chapter 11. The Queen's Trap. The palace glittered that night. Golden chandeliers bathed the grand hall in warm light, music flowing through the air as nobles gathered in silks and jewels, their laughter sharp and echoing. To anyone watching, it was a celebration, another flawless royal gathering. To Elian, it was a nightmare dressed in gold. He stood beside a marble pillar near the edge of the hall, hands clasped tightly in front of him, shoulders drawn inward. He wore fine clothes again, pale and elegant, but his posture gave him away. His eyes darted nervously whenever someone passed too close. The noise overwhelmed him. The stares hurt. Whispers followed him everywhere. "That's the Omega. So that's what the prince married. He looks ready to cry any second." As if summoned by the words, Elian's eyes stung. He lowered his head, biting his lip hard, trying to keep the tears from falling. He did not want to embarrass himself again. He did not want to anger Athros again. A group of nobles approached him slowly, smiles too sharp to be kind. "Well," one of them drawled, circling Elian, "you certainly don't look like someone who belongs at a royal party." Elian flinched. I'm sorry." Another noble laughed. "Sorry? Oh no, dear. You should be grateful." A goblet was pressed into Elian's trembling hand. Drink, the noble said sweetly. It's rude not to. Elian stared at the dark liquid, panic rising in his chest. I don't drink. Drink, the voice repeated, colder now. Hands closed around his wrist, forcing the goblet closer. Elian's breath hitched. His eyes filled instantly. I don't want to. Do you want to insult us? Shaking violently, Elian lifted the goblet to his lip. The wine burned as it went down, bitter and strong. He coughed, tears spilling freely as laughter rang around him. There you go. Not so difficult. Pour him another. No. Elian whimpered, dizzy already, but the goblet was refilled and pressed to his mouth again. He drank because refusing felt worse. He drank until his head spun and his legs weakened, until the room blurred and the laughter became too loud, too cruel. Someone touched his arm. Elian recoiled instantly, panic surging. Please, I want to go back to my room. The nobles laughed again, uninterested, already turning away. Elian stumbled from the hall on unsteady feet, tears slipping down his cheeks unchecked. The alcohol made everything feel heavier, looser, wrong. He leaned against the wall for balance, breathing unevenly. Athros. The thought came unbidden. Without fully understanding why, Elian turned down the corridor that led to Prince Athros' chambers. His steps were clumsy, guided more by instinct than reason. His head swam, heart pounding anxiously. He knocked weakly on the door. No answer. He pushed it open. The room was dim, lit only by a low burning lamp. The familiar scent of metal and spice filled the air. Elian stepped inside, swaying slightly, and closed the door behind him. He hugged himself, suddenly cold. I'm sorry, he whispered to the empty room, tears falling freely again. I didn't mean to. I tried to be good. Elsewhere in the palace, Queen Seraphina watched the party with calm, calculating eyes. When she was satisfied, she turned away. A servant approached Prince Athros, offering him a goblet of wine. The queen herself stepped forward, taking it from the servant's hands and offering it to her son. You look tense, she said mildly. Drink. Athros hesitated only a moment before accepting it. He drank deeply, irritation already simmering beneath his composed exterior. Enough for tonight, the queen said gently. You should retire. Athros frowned. No. Yes, she replied smoothly. Go to your chamber. She watched him leave, her expression unreadable. Then, just faintly, she smiled. Back in the quiet chamber, Elian swayed on his feet, tears slipping down his flushed cheeks as he stood near the bed, waiting without knowing why. The door opened. Prince Athros stepped inside. Their eyes met. The air shifted. Elian's breath caught, his knees weakening as the world tilted. My prince, he whispered, voice small and unsteady. Athros stopped short, surprise flashing across his face as he took in Elian's disheveled state, tear-streaked cheeks, unfocused eyes, trembling hands. What are you doing here? Athros demanded. Elian took a shaky step forward. I didn't know where else to go. Behind the closed door, unseen and unheard, Queen Seraphina's trap closed quietly into place. Chapter 12. A night of confusion and blame. The room felt too small. The air was thick with wine and unspoken things, the dim lamplight blurring edges and softening shadows. Prince Athros stood just inside the door, staring at Elian as if trying to understand what he was seeing. Elian swayed slightly on his feet. Tears slipped freely down his flushed cheeks, his lashes heavy, his breathing uneven. The scent of alcohol clung to him, sweet and sharp, and it made Athros' chest tighten with something he did not want to name. Who did this to you? Athros demanded. Elian blinked slowly, confusion swimming in his eyes. I tried to be good, he whispered. They made me drink. I didn't want to. His voice broke. That sound, soft, fractured, cut through Athros' irritation like a blade. He took a step forward without thinking, then stopped, jaw clenched. "You shouldn't be here," Athros said, though his voice had lost some of its edge. "I didn't know where else to go," Elian murmured. "I was scared." He stumbled, nearly falling. Athros caught him. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Elian's body trembled against his chest, warm and fragile. His fingers curled weakly into Athros' clothes, as if afraid of being pushed away. He looked up, eyes shining with tears, lips parted in a silent plea. "Please," Elian whispered. "Don't be angry." Athros should have stepped back. He didn't. Anger blurred with confusion. Control slipped beneath the weight of wine and the closeness of Elian's fragile body. Athros lifted Elian carefully, almost without realizing it, and carried him to the bed. Elian clung to him, seeking warmth, safety, something he had been denied since the moment he entered the palace. "I'm sorry," Elian kept whispering. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Athros hushed him roughly, fingers tightening for a moment before loosening again. His touch was conflicted, too gentle to be cruelty, too desperate to be kindness. That night passed in broken pieces. Confusion, heat, tight, tears, touch, without clarity. By the time darkness gave way to pale morning light, both were exhausted. Bodies close, minds tangled, neither fully understanding how they had crossed a line, neither had meant to. Morning came mercilessly. Athros woke first. His head throbbed as awareness returned. The weight beside him was the second thing he noticed. Elian Dot, curled close, breathing softly in sleep. Athros' eyes traveled downward and froze. Dark marks loomed across Elian's skin. Red, purple, unmistakable. Athros' blood ran cold. Memory returned in sharp, disjointed flashes. Wine. His mother's voice. Elian's tears. The bed. Rage surged, swift and violent. Elian stirred as Athros pulled away abruptly. "My prince?" Elian whispered, still half asleep. Athros stood, fury radiating from him. "Get up." Elian flinched instantly, sitting up too fast. His head spun. He pressed a hand to his chest, eyes wide with fear. I didn't." Athros cut him off. "How long?" Elian blinked. "How long? How long did you plan this?" Athros snapped. "With my mother." Elian's face drained of color. "No," he whispered, panic flooding in. "I swear, I didn't know. I didn't plan anything." Athros laughed bitterly. "Don't insult me." He pointed sharply at the marks on Elian's body. "You come to my room drunk. You let this happen, and you expect me to believe it was accident." Tears welled instantly in Elian's eyes, spilling over as he shook his head violently. "I didn't understand," he cried. "I was scared. They forced me to drink. I only wanted somewhere safe." "Lies," Athros said coldly. Elian slid off the bed, dropping to his knees despite the dizziness, grabbing desperately at Athros' sleeve. "Please," he sobbed. "Please listen to me just once. I wouldn't do that." Athros yanked his arm away as if burned. "You are shameless," he said harshly. "An Omega who uses tears and weakness to trap his king." Elian gasped, the words tearing through him far worse than any blow. "I hate manipulation," Athros continued, voice like ice. "And I despise immorality." Elian's sobs grew louder, uncontrollable. "I didn't manipulate anyone. I just wanted it to stop hurting." Athros turned away. "You will be punished," he said flatly, "for this disgrace." Elian curled in on himself on the floor, crying openly now, his small body shaking as shame and fear crushed him. Athros did not look back. Behind him, Elian whispered brokenly through tears, "I really didn't know." But by then, Prince Athros had already decided to believe the worst. And once again, Elian was left alone with blame he did not deserve. Chapter 13. The Fake Fiancé. The court gathered again. Elian stood near the back of the hall, hands clasped tightly in front of him. His shoulders hunched as if trying to disappear into the marble walls. His eyes were still swollen from crying the night before, his body weak, his heart heavy with dread. He did not know why he had been summoned. He only knew it never meant anything good. The doors opened. Prince Athros entered, his expression unreadable, his posture rigid and cold. Beside him walked a woman dressed in rich crimson silk, her chin lifted proudly, her eyes sharp with ambition. Whispers erupted instantly. Athros stopped at the center of the hall. "This woman," he announced, his voice calm and cruelly steady, "is my fiancée." The word struck Elian like a blade. His breath left him in a silent gasp. The world tilted. His knees nearly gave out, and he had to grip the edge of a pillar to remain standing. "Fiancé?" His chest tightened painfully, tears flooding his eyes without mercy. He bit down on his lip, but it did nothing. They spilled anyway, hot, helpless, humiliating. Athros' gaze flicked toward him. For a brief moment, something unreadable passed through his eyes. Then it vanished. "Elian," Athros continued coldly, "you will attend to her. See that she lacks nothing." The hall seemed to close in. "Yes, my prince," Elian whispered hoarsely, bowing deeply to hide his shaking. The woman turned and looked at Elian for the first time, her lips curling in disdain. "So this is him," she said lightly. "How pitiful." Elian flinched. From that moment on, his suffering did not stop. The fiancée wasted no time. She ordered Elian about endlessly, fetching water, carrying trays, cleaning rooms that were already spotless. She criticized everything, the way he bowed, the way he spoke, the way his hands shook when he was tired. "Faster," she snapped one afternoon as Elian struggled to lift a heavy basin. "Is this all an Omega can do?" "Don't cry, it's ugly." Elian cried anyway. Soft, quiet sobs slipped free as he worked, tears dripping into the water he carried, his vision blurring with exhaustion. His body ached constantly, his head throbbing, but he never protested. At night, Prince Athros made a show of favoring the fiancée. Elian was sent away. "Sleep in the library," Athros ordered without looking at him. "You are not needed here." Elian bowed and left obediently, heart breaking a little more each time. The library floor was cold. The nights were long. Elian curled into himself beneath thin blankets, shivering as tears soaked the pages of old books. His body grew weaker day by day, but no one seemed to notice or care. Except the fiancée. She noticed everything, and she enjoyed it. The fever came quietly. Elian woke one night shaking violently, his skin burning despite the cold air. His throat hurt when he swallowed. His vision swam. Still, when morning came, the fiancée poured cold water over him without warning. "Get up," she snapped. "You're late," Elian gasped, coughing weakly as the water soaked him. I don't feel well." "Excuses," she said sharply. "Fill my bath from the well." Elian obeyed, even as his legs trembled, even as his hands shook too much to hold the bucket properly, even as black spots danced at the edges of his vision. By nightfall, Elian could barely stand. He stumbled into Prince Athros' chamber, intending only to collapse for a moment on the floor. He did not even remember falling asleep. The fiancée found him first. She shook him roughly. "Get up, how dare you sleep here?" Elian did not respond. His skin was burning, his breathing shallow. That was when the door opened. Athros stepped inside. His gaze fell instantly on Elian's unmoving form. "What is this?" Athros snapped. The fiancé scoffed. "He's pretending, lazy thing." Athros knelt suddenly. His hand brushed Elian's forehead. Burning. Athros' expression changed in an instant. "What did you do?" he demanded, fury blazing. I just made him work." The fiancé stammered. "He's exaggerating." Athros stood and slapped her. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. "Get out," Athros growled. "No." She fled without another word. Athros called for a doctor immediately. Elian stirred weakly, a soft whimper escaping his lip. "My prince, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Athros clenched his jaw painfully. The doctor arrived quickly, checking Elian with a grave expression. "He has a severe fever," the doctor said. "Exhaustion. Exposure to cold. He should not have been working at all." Athros said nothing. He sat beside the bed as the doctor left, watching Elian shiver beneath the blankets. Without thinking, he pulled them higher, his movements careful, restrained. All night, Athros stayed. He changed damp cloth, fed Elian small sips of water, held his trembling hand when the fever worsened. Elian cried even in his sleep, soft, broken sounds that twisted something deep in Athros' chest. "I didn't want to cause trouble," Elian murmured weakly. "I tried. I really tried." Athros closed his eyes. The fake engagement was over. The damage was not. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Prince Athros stayed awake beside Elian until morning, guarding the fragile life he had almost broken. Chapter 14. Love Born from Regret. Morning light spilled softly into the chamber. It was gentle, nothing like the harsh mornings Elian had known before. Prince Athros had not left his side. Elian lay beneath thick blankets, his face pale, lashes resting against flushed cheeks. His breathing was shallow but steady now. The fever had broken some time before dawn, leaving behind exhaustion so deep it pressed him into sleep again and again. Athros sat beside the bed, sleeves rolled up, a bowl of warm broth resting on the table nearby. When Elian finally stirred, it was with a weak sound, half a breath, half a whimper. Athros straightened instantly. "Elian," he said quietly. Elian's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, confusion clouded his gaze. Then recognition struck, and fear followed. He tried to move. "Don't," Athros said at once, placing a firm but gentle hand on his shoulder. "You need to rest." Elian froze. His lips trembled. Tears welled almost immediately. "My prince, I'm sorry," he whispered hoarsely. "I didn't mean to be useless. Please don't be angry." Athros' chest tightened painfully. He picked up the bowl, scooping a small amount of broth. "Eat," he said softly. Slowly. Elian stared at the spoon in disbelief. "You..." His voice cracked. "You're feeding me?" Athros did not answer. He simply held the spoon closer. Elian hesitated, then obeyed, lips brushing the spoon as he swallowed carefully. Tears slipped down his cheeks even as he ate it quiet, helpless tears that came from shock more than fear. Athros fed him patiently, one spoon at a time. When Elian grew tired, Athros set the bowl aside and adjusted the blankets himself. His movements were awkward, restrained, as if he did not trust his own hands. "You will not work," Athros said. "You will not leave this bed until the doctor allows it." Elian nodded weakly, crying softly. "Yes, my prince." Athros looked at him for a long moment. Then, in a voice low and rough, he said, "I was wrong." Elian froze. Athros swallowed. "I believed the worst of you. I hurt you because of it." Elian's tears spilled faster. I thought you hated me forever," Elian whispered. Athros closed his eyes briefly. "I don't." The words were quiet, but they shattered something fragile between them. Elian cried openly then, deep, shaking sobs as weeks of fear poured out of him. Athros did not pull away this time. He let Elian cling weakly to his sleeve, his chest, his presence. "I forgive you," Elian whispered brokenly, because that was who he was, soft, forgiving, gentle even when it hurt. Athros bowed his head, resting his forehead against Elian's hand. Queen Seraphina watched from the doorway later that day. She saw Athros feeding Elian again, saw him speaking softly, saw the way his posture curved protectively around the bed. Relief settled quietly in her chest. At last, days passed, then weeks. Elian grew stronger under Athros' care. The punishments never returned. The cold words stopped. Athros walked beside Elian now instead of ahead of him. He corrected servants who spoke sharply. He ended cruel whispers with a single look. Slowly, carefully, love grew. It was in shared meals, in quiet walks through the garden, in Athros wiping Elian's tears instead of causing them. Elian still cried easily. Athros learned how to soothe him. One afternoon at the fair, the same fair where everything had begun, Elian suddenly swayed. "Elian?" Athros caught him instantly as he fainted. The doctor was summoned at once. When the diagnosis came, the room went still. "Pregnant," the doctor said. "With twins." Athros stared, then smiled. Queen Seraphina clasped her hands together, joy shining in her eyes. Elian cried. "Of course." Soft, overwhelmed tears as Athros held him close, whispering promises he would never break again. Months later, 2 sons were born. Strong, dying, healthy, loved. Athros held them with reverence, awe softening his once stone heart. Elian watched from the bed, tears of happiness falling freely as Athros kissed his forehead gently. At last, the cold king learned warmth. The crying Omega found safety, and a marriage born from fear became a love chosen freely. They lived on, not without scars, but together. And for Elian, that was enough.